have two short talks. First is therapeutic role of mesenchymal stem cells in lung injury. Speaker is Dr. Sayyid Mansoor Ali from Jamia Millia Islamia. And second talk is evaluation of cytogenetic damage induced by landfill leachate and cyclophosphamide in human peripheral blood lymphocytes. Dr. R. M. Samarth from Bhopal. I invite both the speakers and chairpersons are Dr. Manjulata, Dr. Kapil Dev, Dr. Salini Jawhari. I invite all the chairpersons, speakers and program director to sit on the dais.
वहीं वहीं रख दो साइड वाली चेयर पर तो कभी आ रहा है
and the organizers. I am Dr. Kapil Dev from the Department of Biotech, Jamia Islamia. So I am very thankful to the organizers to provide me an opportunity to chair a session in this conference. So we are here with two eminent speakers from the field of scientific community. So it's a pleasure to invite our first speaker, Dr. Ravindra M. Samarth. He is Assistant Professor, Department of Research, Bhopal Memorial Hospital and Research Center, which is being located in the Bhopal. So I welcome Dr. R. M. Samarth to give a talk. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thank you organizers of this conference to provide this opportunity to present something here. So basically it is something different from the talks which had been held here since morning. I will be speaking on the two aspects, mainly they are related to the environment actually, which are harmful for the human health. So title of this my talk is Evaluation of Cytogenetic Changes Induced by the Landfill Leachate and Cyclophosphamide in Human Peripheral Blood Lymphocyte, that is to measure an in vitro evaluation of toxicity. So we must have seen, or you must have come across with these pictures, I think in every city or in outskirts of every city. So these are nothing but the collection of the garbage or the deposition of the garbage outside the city skirts. So this activity happen regularly and it creates an pollution in the city. So recently there was a news from the Delhi, that is Gazipur landfill site, and here it was in the news for the different reason. It is for the accident that happened in the near this landfill site. So what is this landfill leachate? It is actually an conventional or most suitable way of eradication of the municipal solid waste, and it has been reported that almost 90% of the total solid waste is inclined of the landfill worldwide. This solid waste actually consists of human and animal endeavors. It is actually discarded as useless material which comprises all the waste which is normally solid. And the major part of this solid waste, it consists heterogeneous mass of superfluous materials from the either commercial, industrial, agricultural, institutional or the domestic waste. Within a landfill, combined activities of the processes like physical, chemical or biologically mediated events that occur. As we know, water percolates through the landfill. The contaminants are leached from the solid waste is termed as landfill leachate or the leachate. So here there is some water, and as water comes on this garbage, it percolates in the soil and it may reach to the water level. These landfill leachates, they are highly concentrated complex effluents that contain dissolved organic matter, inorganic compounds such as ammonium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and heavy metals such as lead, chromium, zinc, nickel, and some xenobiotic organic compounds. With many interrelating factors such as composition and depth of the waste, availability of the moisture and oxygen, landfill design, operation and age contribute to the leachate formation and its effective causes. Numerous incidences have been described in the past where leachates had contaminated the surrounding soil and polluted the underlying groundwater, aquifer or nearby surface water. This site is very near to our hospital, less than 1 kilometer. This leachate, which is a potential source for the groundwater pollution and rendering groundwater unfeasible for domestic or the other drive. Leachate can migrate distance in excess of 100 meters from the landfill. Hence, the surface water in water bodies like rivers, lakes, or other subterranean aquifers can be polluted by the leachate. Due to the presence of toxic constituents in the leachate, its unchecked release into the environment poses a substantial risk to the local resource users. Research has shown the severity of the leachate as it does contain toxic and some carcinogenic compounds. There are certain news in the print media which attract or which give warning to the people that what are the harmful effects of this activity. But there are also drives like Clean India or Swachh Bharat, but the condition of these sites remains as such even after these efforts from the government and the municipal corporations. Further, the studies have also shown that leachate from the municipal solid waste landfill, it could be more toxic than the leachate from hazardous waste from the landfill. The chemical analysis may identify the occurrence of specific compounds, but the identification is not enough to assess the potential danger as detects only small amount of percentage of these harmful substances. Also, the bioassay toxicity tests that measure the effect on organisms that can detect toxicity even when contaminants are not identified by the chemical analysis. They reflect the cumulative or synergistic effects of all the compounds. So on this site, there are regular garbage collection in Bhopal by sweeping, lifting garbage from the container through the sanitary workers and shifting them to that trenching ground which is located in Bhanpur. It is done through the 169 vehicles and there are 15 zones and every zone are supplied with 10 JCB, 14 dumpers, 7 robots for lifting the garbage and approximately 550 to 800 tons of the trash a day of Bhopal is generated every day, is brought to this site, landfill site. As I said, there are certain print media which publish these news in the newspaper regularly to aware the dangers of this site, but there is no effective way how to get rid of this. This one is something different. This slide I put here just to show that I was in some fellowship program in Japan for 6 months. Then another compound I am interested is the cyclophosphamide. It is very popular drug which is extensively used to treat the wide range of neoplastic diseases, including the Hodgkin disease, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, many types of leukemia, multiple myeloma, retinoblastoma, neuroblastomas, carcinomas of the ovary, breast, endometrium, and certain malignant neoplasms. This cyclophosphamide is also used as immunosuppressive agent for scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, glomerulonephritis, chronic hepatitis, multiple sclerosis, and organ transplantation. The career of this drug began in patients with kidney and autoimmune diseases when Fauci used it in patients with Wegener granulomatosis. This cyclophosphamide, it specifically acts on the T cells and B cells and causes suppression of the cell-mediated or humoral immunity. This one is structure. It was first synthesized by Arnold Borox and Brock in year 1958, and it is fine odorless white crystalline powder. It has molecular formula and it has a molecular weight of this 279.1. Cyclophosphamide is used for cancer treatment in humans, and it has generally administered intravenously as well as orally. However, the doses of this cyclophosphamide can be varied depending on the underlying disorder or the treatment regimen of the patient. Cyclophosphamide is a non-active cyclic phosphamide ester of the meclorethamine, which causes cross-linking of the DNA and RNA strand, which leads to the increased inhibition of DNA polymerase activity and thus prevents the cell division. Although cyclophosphamide has proved to be a very effective chemotherapeutic agent, International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, designated it as a carcinogenic to the humans in the year 1991. This cyclophosphamide, although used for the treatment, it also poses the potential source for the contamination of the environment through various activities, like secondary exposure takes place in the family members of the cancer patient which are undergoing chemotherapy. Environmental contamination is also possible with this such cytostatic drugs. So as this cyclophosphamide is shown to produce many types of gene mutation, DNA damage, chromosomal aberration, micronuclei, sister chromatid exchange in cultured cells of humans, animals or microorganisms in presence of metabolic activation or this sister chromatid exchange without the activation. In presence of the metabolic activation, some mutations in base pair substituting strain of Salmonella have been produced by cyclophosphamide, but these mutations are shown to be negative in E. coli. Mutations induced by the cyclophosphamide have been shown to be positive in D7 strain in Saccharomyces. As far as the peripheral blood lymphocytes of some pharmacists, nurses and workers occupationally exposed to cyclophosphamide, it has been seen that increase in the chromosomal damage and gene mutation have been found in somatic cells. The objective of the present study was to examine and evaluate the cytokines induced by the different doses of the landfill leachate and cyclophosphamide in cultured human peripheral blood lymphocytes, where the mitotic index, chromosomal aberration, micronuclei frequency were studied for the evaluation of cytogenetic damage. Other assay, colony formation assay or the clonogenic assay was performed for the evaluation of cell survival based on the reproductive capability of the cells to grow into the colony. So this was the part of material methods where I have designed two experiments. One is focused on the landfill leachate and another one for the cyclophosphamide. So this is the standard protocol we use for the metaphase preparation, where there are three important steps. One is the stimulation by the PHA. Next is the colchicine treatment, which arrests the cells at the metaphase. Then hypotonic treatment, which allows the cells to swell up, and then the fixation of the chromosomes. In a micronuclei assay, there are two certain changes that we have to treat the culture with the cytochalagen B, which induce the binucleate cells in the culture, and instead of treatment with hypotonic solution, we use here the cold casic hypotonic treatment. Then the other protocol is for the colony formation assay, where the lymphocytes, they are isolated first and then again treated with the different concentration either of the landfill leachate or the cyclophosphamide, and then they allow to grow for the 14 days to form the colonies. These are the results where the chromosomal aberrations can be seen, which are induced by the cyclophosphamide in the blood lymphocytes. These are the aberrations, they are in the landfill leachate treated groups. These are the results for the micronuclei assay and the colony formation assay for the landfill leachate, and it's the same for the cyclophosphamide. In detail, if we see the result, the mitotic index is reduced when we treat the cells with the landfill leachate or the cyclophosphamide, and there was a significant reduction in the mitotic index in 5% and 10% of the leachate treatment or the 5 μg of the cyclophosphamide treatment. Also the breaks, the frequency of the chromosome or the chromatid breaks, they are increased in the after treatment with this drug or the landfill leachate. Although there is no significant difference in the frequency of rings, but the dicentrics, they are the exchanges, they are enhanced in the treatment group, and the percentage of the aberrant cells, they were also found to be increased in the treatment group, either with the landfill leachate or the cyclophosphamide. CBMN assay also showed the NDI is decreased in both the treatment group, and there was an increase in the binucleated micronuclei cells in the treatment group, and the significant difference was observed for the 10% landfill leachate and 5 μg cyclophosphamide. The colony formation assay showed the plating efficiency was drastically decreased, and the significant level was P less than 0.001. Also survival fraction was calculated, and it was observed that there was a significant decrease in the survival fraction after treatment with the landfill leachate, and thus the result of the present study show that the landfill leachate and the cyclophosphamide treatment, it increased the percentage of chromosomal aberrations and micronuclei frequency in the lymphocytes. A significant increase was noticed in the percentage of aberrant cells, breaks, dicentric exchanges. Also, the significant increase was also observed in percentage of aberrant cells, dicentric and exchanges in cyclophosphamide treated group. A dose-dependent decrease in the values of mitotic index as well as nuclear division index was observed in both treated groups. However, significant difference in the values of mitotic index was noted in only 5 and 10% of the landfill leachate or 5 μg of the cyclophosphamide treated group. The values of NDI showed significant decrease at 10% per ml landfill leachate and 5 μg per ml cyclophosphamide treated group. The frequency of micronuclei in binucleated cells was showed a dose-dependent increase, but significant difference was observed only at 10% landfill leachate or 2.5 and 5 mg cyclophosphamide treatment group. In colony formation assay, plating efficiency and surviving fraction values showed significant decrease in dose and dose dependent in both the treatment group. Thus, the landfill leachate and cyclophosphamide showed a cytogenetic and cytotoxic effect on cultured human peripheral blood lymphocytes. The significance of the work is, although there are so many related studies to cyclophosphamide have been done on microorganisms and also studies on toxicity of cyclophosphamide in animals have been explored mainly for the evaluation of protective effects of various plant extracts. However, very few studies have been done on the human lymphocytes to assess toxicity of the cyclophosphamide. Therefore, such study may be helpful in determining genotoxicity using cytogenetic techniques and colony formation assay for other chemical compounds. Such studies done on exposed individuals to cyclophosphamide mainly involve the detection in urine sample or surface wipes of sample, gloves, and techniques mainly include determination of contamination level by gas chromatography, HPLC, mass spectroscopy, and chromatography. But very few studies have been done to determine the effects of cyclophosphamide on lymphocyte in vitro using such cytogenetic techniques. According to our study, the occupational exposure of cyclophosphamide is usually up to 2.9 μg per ml concentration. Thus, the present study can also be useful in determining the cytogenetic anomalies produced in lymphocytes around this concentration, by which the damage caused in lymphocyte after occupational exposure that can also be determined for cyclophosphamide and also for other cytotoxic or cytostatic compounds. The present study evaluated the genotoxicity of landfill leachate using chromosomal and micronuclei assay in peripheral blood lymphocytes. These chromosomal aberration assay and micronuclei are the cytogenetic markers to evaluate the genotoxicity of any substance. Thus, in the present study, these aberration, chromosomal aberration and micronuclei, they showed that landfill leachate possesses genotoxic potential in human lymphocyte. Such studies have importance to evaluate and assess the toxicity of potentially hazardous environmental pollutants. And secondly, the cytogenetic tools used in the present study are gold standard for human biomonitoring studies. These are certain news which again show that how these landfill sites are dangerous to the human health. These are our contributors of the study. And I would like to thank you, the organizers of this FABCon conference, and ICMR NIRE, where I have been attached for 3.5 years, and this work was carried out in this institute and my parent institute, Bhopal Memorial Hospital and Research. So I would like to thank all of them. Thank you for your patience here.
Dr. Ravindra. So audience, do you have any question?
Shivani.
And you are feel to free ask any question from Dr. Ravindra. So we are pleasure that he will give a talk. So I welcome Dr. Syed Mansoor Ali to give a talk on that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Actually, I am not a cancer guy. My work is totally different from the cancer. I am working on neonatal lung disease. Basically, I am working on the neonatal lung disease, bronchopulmonary dysplasia, BPD in short. So it is a chronic lung disease which is characterized by impaired lung development, because of different affecting factors like infections, hyperoxia, or mechanical ventilation. When we put the preterm babies on the oxygen chamber or the incubator or the ventilator, this type of disease will produce. So the pathophysiology of the disease, the major affecting organ are lung and heart due to mechanical ventilation or hyperoxia. Uh, they affect the alveolar and the vascular development of the preterm babies. And that will impair alveolarization and the vascularization of the lung. And that the major risk factors are there is a significant increase for pulmonary and neurologic impairment, which persists up to the adulthood. Uh, and the lungs are more prone to infections and the viral as well as bacterial infections. So the histology of, you can see the normal histology and the BPD histology, you can see the large alveoli, means the alveoli are very large as compared to normal lung. And the vascularization is also very less as compared to normal in BPD. Means this is the quantitation. Here you can see the size of different arteries are, the number of different arteries are very, very less as compared to normal lung arteries. The major reason of BPD is the inflammation. Activation of different inflammatory mediators, cytokines will induce acute lung injury that will cause BPD-like structure. And the activation of blood cells, specifically leukocytes or macrophages, will induce free radicals, and that will destroy the lung alveoli, lung cells, that will cause acute lung injury and the BPD. The other lipid byproducts or leukocyte destruction byproducts will affect, also activate the inflammatory cascade in the lung. So basically I am working on a specific protein which is TREM1. It is a transmembrane protein and only present on the myeloid cells and the neutrophils. It is a transmembrane protein with there is a adapter molecule with them. It's a DAP12 and the ITM adapter molecule. So the pathway, if you talk about the pathway, means that there is no non-ligand for the TREM1, but it activates AKT pathway or the ERK pathway. It also activates NF-kappa B. So basically I am working on the macrophages, and on the basis of inflammatory state, we can divide macrophages into two types. Due to some infection or some other reason, the resting macrophages will be pro-inflammatory or maybe anti-inflammatory. The M1 is a pro-inflammatory macrophages and M2 is anti-inflammatory. The major markers of M1 are the INOS, IL-1 beta, TNF-alpha, IL-12, etc. And for the anti-inflammatory markers, we normally do YM1, FIS1, arginase 1, and other different markers. So for our study, we used hyperoxia-induced lung injury model in mice. So what we normally do, we put from the postnatal day one, the newborn mouse, we put on the hyperoxia chamber, which is 100% oxygen. And for the 7 days, we remove the neonates and remove the lung. And we check, first we check the expression of TREM1. So here we see the TREM1 expression is high as compared to room air 1. In the hyperoxic lung, where they have more TREM1, we have checked by PCR and Western blotting as well as the flow cytometry. Here we use the fluorescent immunohistochemistry, and we have merged with the CD11B. CD11B is a marker for the macrophages. So we can see the merge, the TREM1 and CD11B merging. That is show means that is expressed in macrophages only, in, in lung. And after hyperoxia, you can see the increased macrophages as well as TREM1 expression. I did the time course study. Here you can see the TREM1. This is in the macrophage cell line. In the macrophage cell line, we have found that after 16 hours of hyperoxia that there is a huge increase in the TREM1 expression, almost 10-fold increase. And I also checked TREM2, IL-6 and IL-10. I didn't found any difference in the TREM2, but IL-6 and IL-10, IL-6 is increased and IL-10 is decreased. In the figure C, what I did, I removed macrophages from the neonatal lung and checked and put on the hyperoxia, and I found the increased expression of TREM1 in neonatal macrophages also. So normally TREM1 is known as an inflammatory molecule, but when I silenced the TREM1 with siRNA of TREM1, so we can measure this large alveoli as a chord length. Means when we measure the chord length after giving the siRNA of TREM1, we found that the chord length is increased with the siRNA. We were expecting means that should be decreased because the silencing of TREM1 should be beneficial. But here I found the result that the silencing of TREM1 will increases the injury, and the survival is also less in after giving the siRNA, siRNA of TREM1. So what we did, we gave the TREM1 antibody. TREM1 antibody is used as an agonistic antibody just to increase the TREM1 pathway, just to activate the TREM1 pathway. When we gave the TREM1 antibody, the agonistic antibody, we found the beneficial effect of TREM1. We found we have found less chord length and the less number of neutrophils in the lung bronchoalveolar lavage fluid, valve fluid. The oxidative stress marker OXO-G is also reduced when we give the anti-TREM1 antibody. Means the injury is reduced with the antibody. YM1 and the KL4 are the marker for the M2 macrophages. So this is when we checked in the lung microenvironment. After giving the anti-TREM1 antibody, YM1 and KL4 were increased. That means the M2 is increased and M1 is decreased. The INOS and the IL-6 both are decreased in the lung. When we check the macrophages with the specific M2 markers, in the macrophages with the anti-TREM1 antibody, the arginase 1 and the YM1 are increased by anti-TREM1 antibody. We also used the TREM1 knockout mouse. So what we found with the siRNA of TREM1, we found the same result. TREM1 knockout mouse means more injury as compared to normal wild type after giving the 7-day hyperoxia. You can see in that chord length graph. RIPK3 is a kind of marker for the necrosis, and necrotic macrophages are more difficult to remove through efferocytosis or phagocytosis than apoptotic macrophages. So these are more pro-inflammatory. So when we gave the anti-TREM1 antibody, so the marker for the necrosis RIPK3 is decreased, and the angiopoietin 1, which is kind of beneficial molecule for the lung injury, is increased. Just to check the specific necrosis is good for the role of necrosis in the acute lung injury in neonates. We also did we took the RIP3 knockout mouse, and we found that the RIP3 knockout, the lung is showing beneficial results, means the hold length is down in RIP3 knockout as compared to wild type. The survival is less in TREM1 knockout as well as the RIP3. There is no difference in RIP3 knockout. There is no change in the survival. In the PN7 lung, the neonate, the marker, the angiogenesis marker, angiopoietin 1 is increased and the RIPK3 is decreased. The phospho-AKT is also increased, which is kind of marker for the survival. This is the ISC slides for the patient sample. These two, the first, the left side panel, this is no BPD and the BPD. In the BPD, we can see the increased TREM1 expression in different magnification. The same thing I found in that I took the tracheal aspirates of the patient and checked the TREM1 expression. In the BPD sample, TREM1 is high. So the overall means what we concluded is the hyperoxia increases TREM1, and TREM1 is means cause the M2 polarization, and so M2 is good, so that's why it stops the inflammation. It decreases the inflammation. The other way, TREM1 also increases the angiopoietin 1. Angiopoietin 1 is a negative regulator of TRPK3. So on this hand, on the right hand, it will stop the necrotic pathway. So TREM1 will do like with the two pathway, stop the necrosis, increase the M2, and stop the lung injury by stopping inflammation and beneficial effect on the PKD. So the summary is TREM1 is induced in vivo and in vitro in the macrophages that are exposed to hyperoxia. In hyperoxia model, TREM1 antibodies are more efficacious at stimulating the pathway of TREM1 and attenuating the inflammatory response. TREM1 inhibits hyperoxia-induced injury to the developing lung via modulation of RIPK3, which is an important protein of necrosis pathway. TREM1 also modulates polarization of lung alveolar macrophages towards M2, and modulating TREM1 activity could be a viable treatment for the BPD. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.
Surendra, any question from the audience?
Manoj Pandey to felicitate our speaker. Please come on the dais. I request Dr. Pandey to felicitate our chairpersons too. Dr. Kapil Dev and Dr. Salini Jawhari. आज का साइंटिफिक सेशन यहीं पे समाप्त होता है। कल ऑडिटोरियम में 9 बजे से कीनोट एड्रेस है और उसके बाद 10 o'clock से ऑडिटोरियम और इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ हेल्थ साइंसेस दोनों जगह टॉक्स होगी। ऑडिटोरियम में 9 o'clock से स्टार्ट होके 4 o'clock तक, और 4 o'clock पे वैलिडिक्टरी फंक्शन है। इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ हेल्थ साइंसेस में 10 o'clock से 3 o'clock तक। थैंक यू एवरीवन। और शाम को कल्चरल प्रोग्राम है जहाँ पे कल हुआ था।